happened to the cloud? Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, October 14th Visitor Services Advisory Committee. My name is Chantal Blaise Murphy. I'm here filling in for David Sharp, our Visitor Services Advisory Committee Visitor Services Coordinator. Like I said earlier, it is very early and I need to finish my cup of coffee. I just want to remind everyone that this meeting is being video and audio recorded. So please be mindful to take care not to screen share your computer unless you mean to do so. Otherwise, whatever you share will be captured in the recording. Also a reminder to mute yourself while you're not speaking, to speak very clearly, introduce yourselves so that we can take accurate meeting minutes. I'd like to take the time to welcome Meg Jarrett, who's the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Film Office. We had the pleasure of meeting Meg many times, but she was here recently during the filming of Five Star Weekend. But she's going to be our guest speaker later on in the conversation. But I just wanted to say good morning to all of you and welcome. At this time, we will open it for public comment, though I don't see any members of, oh, actually, we need to do the roll call, the attendance. So I'll go ahead and take attendance, forgive me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Liz Holland.
Here.
Garrison Beal.
Here.
Matt Peel.
Here.
Mary Malavase.
Here.
Niles Parker.
Here.
Niles, in just a second, I'm going to change your name just so it shows accurately. So forgive me.
Okay.
And also speakers, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Meg Jarrett. And Chantal Blaise Murphy. Hi, Meg. Thank you. And Chantal Blaise Murphy is also here. Now we'll go down to the agenda. So I'll open it again for public comment, even though I don't see any members of the public present, but just as a formality. And then we'll go ahead and close that. And in your packet, you should have gotten the June 12th meeting minutes. I'm just looking for a motion for approval of that.
So move.
Second.
Thank
Do we
you.
need discussion or changes? Okay.
And Liz Holland.
Yes.
Garrison Beal.
Yep.
Matt Peel.
Yes.
Niles Parker.
Yes.
And Mary Malavase.
Approved.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chantal. Welcome, everyone. It's been a while since we've met after a very busy summer, but I'm glad you're all here, and whether you're stuck on or off island, welcome. Our guest today is Meg Jarrett. Meg, thank you for joining us. Obviously, we are very much aware of the Mass Film Office. On a simple little side note, which I add to these meetings, whether I'm asked or not, is my first meeting with the Mass Film Office, I believe, was 1985, when we were filming One Crazy Summer. So welcome. We're glad to see that Nantucket is still on the radar for people. And I think when you look back at 1985 and you see that we finally have rules that were written out here in 2016, it took us a while. So thank you, Meg. Welcome. We're happy you're here.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Meg, or maybe she could give us a report on how we did? I think it's always interesting to drive around a corner and you never know who you're going to see. Obviously, there's an impact on the island where you only have one main street, but happily the weather seemed to be good when everyone was here. And so if anyone has any comments or questions, or Meg, if you can give us a little update on how we did and maybe what we should look to improve should this take place in the future.
Sure, and both, and this that goes both ways. I would love to hear that. First of all, thank you for having me here today. I've only been in this role for a year and a half, but prior to that, I was the liaison for the Massachusetts Film Office for the former director, Lisa Strout, for Cape Ann. So I'm used to the small island invasion, that's what we want to say it, but actually it cannot be that way. It's a perception that we are working on, and they used to say the carnival comes to town, but the carnival, now I've been in the industry for 30 years. I've worked in Massachusetts for 30 years in the film industry, on productions and as the liaison for Cape Ann. And interesting enough, I'm still seeing people that I worked with 30 years ago. So that's something to be said about an industry that we're recognizing. I'm running into people that may have left and come back. There was a makeup artist on Five Star Weekend that I hadn't seen her in 30 years. So that was lovely, to see. And so I am very respectful and aware of the footprint that the industry puts in our state. And we have neighborhoods, as you do, in Gloucester, and there's in Manchester and Rockport. And there are certain areas that are definitely seasonal, that people only come for a short amount of time, but they pay all the taxes, and they pay their way to have these year-round homes, and so they don't want to be interrupted by a film who also wants to come. Tourism and the film season highs are at the same time, so that's what we look to balance. And then there are people, residents in residential areas, that is the same respect. So I think that the cruise today, even going to Marblehead, that has a lot of Adam Sandler productions that come in the summertime. I believe that our experienced crews and location managers and location departments have well become aware, versus the one or two films that used to come in the past. The incentives have drawn more business here, so they want to come at our best time, right? Who wants to come in the middle of the winter? We're hoping they want to, but we're working that out to show a more balanced season. So we are well aware of these communities. We know that when literature is written about our community, it may be only a matter of time. If we look at Little Woman in Concord, and how many times Little Woman has been made, and that's a historic footprint that we also are respectful. A great example is the Crane Estate in Ipswich, the Castle Hill. The trustees, they have been filming there for well over 2 decades. And to think that that was Chevy Chase's childhood summer home, in the span of our lifetime, that something that you see, that's a positive thing that we see, that the home was a private home, became a product of the trustees. I believe that when productions rent, the money is used well to preserve some of the property, and I think that's another way to look at some of the economic impact, is preservation and seeing what we can do to make the areas better that the productions come to. So I know that was a very broad answer, but if you want to ask specifically any of the questions of things that I've touched upon or anything else, I would like to hear from you also.
Thank you, Meg. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Matt.
Hi, thank you. Matt Peel. First, I just want to start by saying I run a shipping company on island, and everybody I worked with from the production was absolutely wonderful. And so they were great. They were very kind. They were very kind to my drivers, and so we really appreciated them. And so they were wonderful to work with. We only had limited interaction, but even when they worked downtown and stuff, delivering to downtown businesses, my driver said everybody from production was very kind. So, yeah, I just want to start by saying that. But also, I was just kind of doing a little bit of research, and I found this interesting. I think it's amazing and great having a production like that here on Nantucket, but I also want to make sure that we can handle kind of the aftermath a little bit as well. And I know that's kind of a bigger conversation than visitor services here, but I want to make sure that we're prepared for something like that. And I think that's more maybe along the lines of the select board looking at a bigger picture kind of thing. But I was just reading here, what was it? The Four Seasons in Maui after the White Lotus saw 425% rise in website visits and a 386% increase in check-ins. And so, as I'm sure Garrison would love to see that, but it's also something that we want to make sure we can keep the level of service that people are used to and expect when they come to an island like this. That way, we don't get trashed. I think one of the worst things, for any business on this island now is a TikTok influencer. I mean, that could be more damaging than a hurricane almost. And so it's just one of those things, I guess it's more of a comment than a question, but I would love to hear, if you guys have any feedback on how to prepare for that. Have you ever seen anything for other towns of what to do? I think we saw a little bit from the Netflix movie, but they filmed most of their stuff off island. So I think this one's going to be a very good reflection, I hope, of Nantucket, where the last one was a very good, insight into, I guess, Chatham. Didn't really look anything like Nantucket in my opinion, but so yeah, I think it's an interesting time and a little bit of a change in where we're going as an island. And I just want to make sure that we're prepared for it. That way we can give everybody the same level of service and fulfill those expectations from visitor services.
Sure. Well, I went there twice this year and I hadn't been there in 20 years. So I wanted to go for the Nantucket Film Festival's 30th anniversary. So I had gone 20 years prior to that. So economically, I went there on my own. And so I think that it's a little bit of a buffer that you're not going to get, you may get more day trippers come, but I think that there's a price point where people are going to be invested in coming. The second time I brought my husband, so that we went together on our own to come during the filming. But interesting enough, I flew over on JetBlue for time restraints, and there were probably 3 groups of women that were there, one of 3, and then a 4, looking up the book, looking up places to go, and planning out their trip. And I think that in terms of the perfect couple, I always thought of this: only 0.000025 of the population know what Nantucket looks like. And I think to your point, they're thinking now it looks like the Cape, but now we're going to get, you're going to see, I think you're going to see a slight uptick in your downtown. I think you're going to see, but again, I think it's going to be more of a planned trip for people to have that experience. I think we saw this with Jaws 50th anniversary this summer. It was amazing that they were still drawing in. Where I live, from the perfect storm 25 years later, people are still stopping in front of a building that was a faux. It was the crow's nest, but they built that. People still stop in front of the original one that wasn't even depicted. And so there are other places. I think we see this. I don't think you're going to see the onslaught that you think. There are. One other good thing is we never had social media, but the good and the bad of social media is people can watch it. They're going to watch it on Peacock, but then they're going to look up. It's like when I watch something from Europe now, The Crown, I stop midway, 1 for the history part, and 2 to see where this place is. And it's almost like an instant satisfaction of just researching where that place is and what it looks like. I think a trip to Nantucket is a very planned trip, and I don't think that you are going to, so we'll. I think that will be interesting to follow that along. I think it will bring an uptick in tourism, but I think in the positive way of the spend. If that's better. they weren't going to a beach per se, that everybody would hoard to that one beach. You know, if your beach is listed as the #1 beach in New England or, you know, on the East Coast, you get that. You know, I think they were shopping, they're in the town. The places they depicted, I don't think people are going to run to, you know, I think it already is in her books. I think that, you know, no one is, and I just think it will be part of the trip that happens, but we'll see how that unfolds. We know that from our tourism office, where the film office comes under tourism, we saw a huge uptick from England for The Perfect Couple, that they were making tourist trips to, and again, a planned trip to the Cape to see what it looks like. So that was very interesting.
Thanks, Meg. Anyone else have specific questions? I know, was the Whaling Museum filmed? I don't know what the schedule was. Niles is on, and that's why. Obviously, that's one of our major attractions downtown. So you may not realize, but Niles Parker, who's on this Zoom in the committee, is executive director of the Historical Association, which includes obviously the Whaling Museum. So I think from an educational standpoint, any mention of things like that is what brings people to see our history and our, you know, X number of homes built pre-Civil War, and, you know, in the history and how we got to that point. So I'm a firm believer that that's important. I think on another aspect, the town, I know you've probably reviewed all the town permits. Dina does a great job with helping people with the permits. But I would hope that maybe you would give us any suggestions of things that over time may need to be updated, because as you said, things change. Social media wasn't around and wasn't as active as it was in 2016. And our select board takes this very seriously. I know we have code of conduct listed for our films. And if anyone hasn't read that, it's a very well-written document and basically, if you want people to behave, you need to tell them how they should behave. So I think that's important, but maybe there's things that could be updated. Maybe our fee structure could be updated if something happens in the future. I do know, obviously, they hire a lot of extra people on their own, and police detail, and all of that, which is wonderful for our young summer officers to have a little extra boost. I'm all in favor of that. Anyone else have any questions? I guess the other question for me is,
I don't have a question.
When will this be, Chantal, let me just add, when will this be released? Do you know how long it's going to take?
I don't know yet. I know
Okay.
that they'll they see when other things are streamed, but I will keep Chantal and their offices apprised, but they'll know from the location managers as well.
Do you know
so
if
they'll
it
check
might be
back in.
during one of our film festivals where we might see it first?
Typically, streaming does not go in film festivals. However, I mean, first of all, I want to compliment you on your film festival. Also, a wonderfully run event. I've been to Sundance. I've been to Cannes. I've been feeling, when I saw Tony Gilroy just walking around down the piers and down the boat basin, and just like, this is the gentleman who did the Bourne Supremacy series, the Bourne, and he and his wife were just lovely walking around as tourists. I saw him speak. That is a lot to say about your community. People just leave them alone. And of course, you have a lot of Star of Wattage that comes in year to year. And I think it's a very respected festival. And I think that went so well. So that being said, maybe I would have Chantal and speak to location manager Greg and talk to the executives to see if that's something you want. These are the things you can ask for. You know what I'm saying? And so you have a great theater there. Maybe there is some kind of give back that they can work out with production, especially if they want to come back.
and I don't know that anyone wants it. I'm just raising
Right,
that
right.
because I do know this year at the film festival, you probably saw the 50th anniversary documentary of Jaws,
Yes.
which was very instrumental because of the author who quite a few of us knew. So
Yes.
I think that the fact that obviously it was a documentary film, but to be part of our film festival was a sold out event.
Sure.
More than once, because many of us saw the original Jaws here at Dreamland, the old theater. So
How great is that, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Shanta, did you have a question or a comment?
I was trying to comment on what Matt had asked, just to add a little bit
Yeah,
more
go ahead.
information about visitors to the island. Just going back to the perfect couple, I believe it was islands.com, which is a travel website, if you will. They plan trips and things like that for people. They started tracking Google searches for Nantucket after the perfect couple was released, and it was found that just the word Nantucket jumped up 1,350% in searches. Where is Nantucket was up 250%, and where was a perfect couple filmed up 300%. The Brotherhood saw a 100% increase just in the name of the business because people were curious. I'm gonna confess, I've never seen the perfect couple, so I'm guessing it was probably mentioned in there.
Oh,
So, I'm guessing Brotherhood was mentioned if people are searching it. I'll probably watch it this weekend. Just say I did. It's just not my genre. And then again, whereas Nantucket Island also surged, because before we had Where's Nantucket at 250%, but Where's Nantucket Island surged 600%. I want to point out that we did not see that translate in visitors to the island, unfortunately. So if anything, we actually saw a -5%, which is 0.5%, which is so small in visitorship to the island after the perfect couple. So I mean, it could go either way, you know. I think, like Meg was saying, Nantucket is a very specific price point that requires serious planning to come to the island. That unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people can actually afford to come to the island just after watching, you know, a show about the island. We wish everyone could experience this beautiful historic location. But hopefully in day trips they can, and with planning they can spend some nights and get to enjoy the Brotherhood. And I think there were increases, Garrison, you'd be happy to hear this, and Great In House as well. So I just wanted to add that. And then Mary, to go off of what you had mentioned about the film policy and the code of conduct, working with a lot of the Massachusetts Film Scouts. I've actually been talking to a number of them about our film policy, how it stacks up against other towns throughout Massachusetts, because it hasn't been updated since 2016. Lord knows the fee structure certainly needs to be updated. We've been comparing that to not just places in Massachusetts, but looking at what does New York City do. I know when I lived in New York, I would literally go check to find out what streets I needed to avoid. So like, I don't want my commute disrupted. And looking at Beverly Hills, I believe it was, that we pulled their information because they have a really detailed film structure and policy. Just looking at those places that deal with this a little bit more, because the fact that they deal with it more means that they're seeing a lot more than we are. So they've experienced all the good, the bad, and the ugly that we can't even begin to fathom would be an issue. So we're comparing ours to theirs. And we actually have a meeting later this week for our internal work group to take a look at what we have, so that the different departments that do come in contact with the film policies, the police department, the fire department, the health department at times, the planning office, all of those departments, they can review it and let us know what holes we've missed so that we can, stop those gaps. And then eventually it'll kind of work its way out. But it will eventually hit Meg's desk before it goes to select board as well.
And
Yeah.
I would suggest looking at like properties, so Block Island,
Yes.
Newport, I think looking up the Hamptons.
Yes.
There's a lot of Hamptons. So I would go in with that, and I'm open to having a conversation with you to do that. That's the best way. I advise, obviously, I'm always in the middle between property owners, the municipalities, and the production. So I kind of like to meet, obviously, in the middle to look at it from both sides. And Rockport has done a very good job as well. That I call them my Disneyland, Disney World. Like if you or I used to take my children to Disney World, they'd have a parade, and afterwards, 30 minutes later, you never knew there was a parade there. That's your goal. Okay, so you say there was this great parade, there was confetti, there was everything, and then within an hour, it's not there. You didn't see any evidence of it. That's how you want to look at a production to be. You want to make sure everything is taken with them that they brought, and and things are button tight. So I'm happy to have more conversations with you as you go through that process.
And I know Dina has been very instrumental in, I think, helping with quite a few of these permits this year. So thank you, Dina. We're happy you're in your new role of doing this. Any other questions for Meg? Well, I want to thank you for taking your time to be here with us today. I think from all my encounters with the crew downtown, I agree with Matt. Traffic moved, it was fine. Obviously you slow down a little bit to get a peek yourself as to what's going on. I think Jennifer Garner seemed to enjoy the island. She was out and about and doing fun things, and and I think that's why people do come here, because we care, but we don't want to be intrusive. So that's why so many people of various walks of life have come to Nantucket as summer residents, because we're happy they're here because they're enjoying the same things that we enjoy. But all right, Meg, you don't have to stay on for the rest of our meeting, but I know you probably have a busy schedule, so thank you for being here. And
I have 3 productions in the rain today in Boston.
Yes, yeah. So
yeah,
we get it.
The great weather. You took all the great weather. I have a production that just came in from England, and they're like, "What is happening?" Yes, it's supposed to be summer scenes. Okay,
Yes,
thank you
right.
so very, very much. Okay, lovely to meet everyone, and
Thank you, Meg.
I'll talk to you soon. Okay,
All
bye-bye.
right. Thank you, Meg. All right, moving along down the agenda, director's report. It's been a busy summer, Shanta.
It sure has been. I feel like we've set ourselves up for this. Taking on special events in film, taking on passports. The office has certainly changed quite a bit since I started 3 years ago. All my own doing, I have to admit. I'm very much enjoying it. When my hands aren't busy, they get idle. So we need busy in here. But looking at the stats from for July, August, and September, over those 3 months, we enjoyed 495,700 unique visitors, which resulted in a visit of it resulted in 2 million visits to the island. So we can say that our visitors were coming at an average rate of 4.07 visits each. So that's kind of lumping in our seasonal residents as well, that don't spend, or seasonal or other second homeowners that don't spend the entire summer here, I should say. I mentioned earlier that it showed a slight decrease in visitors from last year, which is 0.5%. It's down 1.4% from 2 years before and 6.7% from 3 years before. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday continue to be the busiest days, with July 5th being the busiest day of the entire year. Peak travel times are between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. And our visitors were coming in from highest to lowest, being New Canaan, Darien, Wellesley Hills, South Boston, Palm Beach, and Greenwich. Highline, was the #1 means of transportation to the island, with steamship following close behind. The New Bedford ferry was also really busy, which was nice to see. That was #3. JetBlue at White Plains, JFK. I still haven't been able to figure out how to map that properly to see how they're how they're traveling through JFK, but I can tell you that Terminal 2, I did figure out, is the busiest terminal for visitors to the island at Logan, which makes sense. I think that might be JetBlue and Cape Air. And then just outside of that, the Cultural Council again was awarded $7,500 from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. That grant cycle is currently open for anyone interested in applying for a grant for the arts, humanities, and such. It closes October 16th, so it's coming up soon. It's been open for the past month. The Cultural District was awarded $15,000 that grant cycle. After we close out the Cultural Council, we usually then open the Cultural District grant cycle. And then to go back to the film, we wrapped filming on October 1st. Their first day of filming was September 10th. And it was fairly smooth, I would say. They were great to work with. I think everyone that came in contact with them found out they were very respectful. And they listened really well, as to be expected. You know, they asked for, I told them, ask for everything you want. So we know, and then let's work our way down, because there are some things you can and cannot do. And they were very gracious in accepting the many no's that we had to present to them. And finally, as I mentioned before, we are updating the film and special events policy and changing that fee structure, among some other policies that work into our department. And we are currently working on our Halloween festivities downtown. I actually just got an email from another department signing my street blocking permit, so that's exciting. It's slowly coming together. But of course, the Halloween parade will happen on October 31st proper. And we continue to build on it as we have in throughout the years. Last year, we added some fun music down at the bottom of Main Street by the fountain, and we are working on getting some more speakers so that we can project it all along Main Street. And we are going to be shifting the goodie bags that we give out, that the Inky puts together. We're shifting that from the I believe it's a Methodist church down to where we kind of have operations set up by the fountain. But we'll still be parading up Main Street. And that's David's report. So I'll save that for when it's David's turn, because I'll be presenting his. So that's sort of what I've got. It's been a really busy summer. The office has been busy. We've been fully staffed. Fortunately, we were able to attend the job fair at the high school this summer. So we hired one high school age student that's from Nantucket. We hired another high school student that is actually from, I believe he's from Philadelphia. And he is bilingual, which was great. He was really helpful on Wednesdays when we had passports and we needed someone to that wasn't Dina or I Spanglishing downstairs. So that was really good having him there. He was a great resource. They helped us boost the children's beach activities, which was great. We were able to have activities 5 of the 7 days of the week for, I believe it stretched over a 10-week time frame. So that was really nice. So we're kind of slowly watching my original vision for the department kind of come together, which has been very exciting, because I think this office has the potential to do so much. So it's nice to finally be able to execute a lot of those things. And that is my grand report. Happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Chantal? I think everyone knows it was busy. Yeah, it was a good summer. Obviously, we had great weather until this past weekend. Right straight through September. I don't think a lot of people realized how gorgeous September was. Obviously we need the rain, but I think anyone that was a visitor thoroughly enjoyed being outdoors and then indoors for the restaurants and museums and all. So I think it will go down as one of the better summers, especially on the other front. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, hearing none, I guess we can conclude early. Everyone is still busy. We will say that in recovering from the weekend's disruption of a lot of things. I'm sure Matt's going to be really busy today too. But Garrison, I'm sure you probably had people that stayed that might not have, which that's okay. We welcome those extended stay visitors. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call for a meeting to adjourn.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. We still have the Visitor Services Coordinators report and the Cultural Affairs and Events Coordinators report.
Okay, all right, continue.
Okay.
I thought you gave it to us, but I guess not.
David gave me 2 pages, so I'm sorry. Here we go.
Oh, okay. I have 1 page from David's numbers.
Okay. So he mentions that included in the meeting packet are the September numbers and stats overall for the 3rd quarter, which includes July and August. The visitor numbers are up when compared to the same time last year. And this is visitor touch points, our main office at 25 Federal, our Straight Wharf kiosk, and then of course our airport kiosk in the main terminal. We did not have our mobile kiosk active this summer because a mouse moved in throughout the winter and ate all the wiring. So that was a nightmare getting it fixed, but we finally got it back at the end of August. So we'll be back again next year. But the visitor numbers, as you mentioned, are up. In the 3 months, they helped 28,810 people compared to 23,938 a year ago. That's an increase of 4,827. The airport info desk closed at the end of September, and Straight Wharf kiosk just closed this last weekend. He will continue to resupply the airport desk and the Greenhound counter every few days with updated info including maps, the weekly restaurant list, and a list of what's happening each week. Starting to lose some of our seasonal staff. Susan Burns, Ann Ballas, and Mariah Wayne all have gone home to New York or Florida. And starting this upcoming weekend, we will be closed on Sundays until Christmas stroll. We'll be open on Saturday and Sunday that week. And the stats, the 3rd quarter stats are included. I will not read through all of those. However, August, of course, was our busiest month of those 3 months.
I was going to wait and ask David, but I do have a question.
Mhm.
Why was the airport numbers, if you may know, or we may have to wait for David, the difference of a couple of thousand people, right? Or, I mean, that's the only thing that jumped out, 1,000 last year, 3,200 this year. And then the same in July. Was it a staffing? Were we open longer?
Staffing. So we had we had someone that staffed it throughout the years, another Susan that worked out there, but she sold her house and is no longer with us. So it took us a little while to staff it. We actually staffed it with 2 new people. So of course it was a matter of getting them trained, working around their schedule. One of them started later in the season as well. And then we ended up losing one of them earlier than anticipated because they had a grandbaby. So
yeah. Well, I think it's interesting to see the increase in the airport numbers.
Mhm.
I think it does nothing but bode well for us being there.
Yeah. We're also, how they're tracking the numbers are a little different because, as you know, people are different. It's a little different, and I find that they're spreading themselves a little bit more and not just staying at the desk, but they're going where they're needed as well, which is kind of nice.
Perfect. Okay, thank you for that. Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you all for being here. I think it was a good meeting. It was interesting that Meg could have the time. Garrison, did you have a question?
Madam Chair, I think we still have one more
Go
person
ahead.
to present. Am I correct, Chantal? I think.
Yes, we have Dina's report.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for having me back. I would say this summer was very busy, as we've all said. So to date, I've received 281 event applications, and 168 of those were for the 3 month period from the beginning of June till the end of August. So most of our large events over the summer were actually our seasonal fundraisers. And now as we transition into the fall, they've become some of our mainstays, like our yearly festivals, such as the Island Fair, or other things such as the Turkey Plunge. But to compare the summer to the shoulder season and even the fall, in July we had over 70 events. In August we had 66. September it quickly dropped to 11. So it's dwindling down pretty quickly. But it's going back up as we approach Stroll, and the chamber is planning their annual Nantucket Noel. So that's something we can look forward to as we move into the winter. A lot of the yearly events are already preparing for next year's application season. Um, the triathlon has reached out to me. Wine Festival has reached out to me. So we'll begin processing some of those um, annual events as we go into January, February of next year. As Chantal mentioned, we had 5 new event days at the beach, featuring some local performers and businesses such as Nan Puppets, Magic Mark, and Capoeira with Verdum. And then on Fridays, we had crafting. And to no surprise, our most popular craft was the tie-dye, which had more than 50 kids come in a 2 hour period. So we're planning on bringing that back next year. And then we have the Sunday concert series at the beach as well, which was popular as always. But that's pretty much the report. It was a busy summer as expected. And now we're seeing it dwindle down as we get into the shoulder season, which was great considering that we had the TV show filming. So that allowed us to pay a little bit of a, not a little bit, but more attention to that. Um, and I can take any questions if people have any.
I can't believe 281 applications. I mean, that's incredible that you handled. I will say from one of the nonprofits I'm involved with, they thoroughly enjoyed working with you.
Yeah,
So kudos in your new job. Matt, you have a comment?
Yeah. So Children's Beach, I went to a couple events stuff down there this year. And a couple of things I just want to notice. One, I know it's hard. I don't know what the irrigation is over there, but and I know we can't, we had water restrictions this year, but I noticed that like the grass area and stuff was really kind of took a beating this year. But it's hard. It was such a dry year. I mean, my grass looks horrible because I don't have irrigation, but that, and then also just the beach itself. Is there a cleaning schedule? Is that part of the clean team? Or what? We get so many kids and things, shirts, buckets, broken beach toys and things like that just get left all over that beach. I just noticed there's quite a bit of garbage, and I don't know if that's on a cleaning schedule or what is that, part of. Is there a crew that comes in at all? So
Yeah. Parks and Rec and DPW are in charge of the maintenance of the beach. I do know with the grass at the end of summer, it was patched. When we hosted the Children's Book Day, they had filled in a lot of the grass with, mm, I don't, dirt is not the right word, but
sod.
organic material. Um, so that was they've addressed some of those concerns. But Chantal would know more about the exact schedule for cleaning and stuff like that. But I know they're very attentive to the trash cans.
May I, Madam Chair?
Shanta, your hands up.
Thank you. So the grass, obviously, we're in a drought. So I'm sure you'll notice that all of the town's grass that we maintain all died, including the ones on the sidewalk in front of our building. The town made the decision to lead by example. Even in areas that were on well, they got limited water schedule. Obviously, if we're telling people to limit their watering schedules, we can't be out here not. So unfortunately, with all of the work that was done on that grass last summer to make it beautiful, we all just watched it dwindle away. So that was really unfortunate. I know Charlie was he was counting the blades down there all summer long. As far as the DPW's maintenance of the trash service, so for the bandstand and the trash barrels that are there, we haul that trash away. The playground area, that's on the concession to make sure that they're keeping that area clean. And then the beach proper, for any debris or trash that is on the beach proper, usually the lifeguards would walk the beach and pick up whatever they see. But I encourage anyone that if you see trash down there, the DPW has a website, See Click Fix, that you can actually just go on to. You can even snap a picture, mention the location, and they'll come and take care of whatever it is, whether it be a pothole, loose brick or trash floating around somewhere. So that's one way to, if you ever see something like that, to get it taken care of in a timely manner. And there's always someone, even if it's the on-call person, if it's the weekend or late night, there's always somebody manning it that can come take care of it.
Okay, yeah, that reminded me too when you said
Yeah.
playground as well. Having little kids, I spend a lot of time on playgrounds, but that playground, that thing could definitely use some attention because it gets a lot of use. And I've definitely noticed, like over on the side there, butts up against the yacht club, that you got sticker bushes that'll grow in there, and all sorts of stuff. And you're always finding things in the sand in that playground. So. I think eventually, you could use some attention.
I will say I have used that DPW site on a traffic safety issue when I noticed a one-way sign was missing after some of the sewer work that was done on the side street. And I watched 2 cars drive down the wrong way on a one-way street. And I filled it out, and next day the sign was back up. So I agree with Chantal. It's monitored, and Drew does a great job out there. So
one more question,
Matt.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
For Chantal, have they given you a schedule when you will be reporting to the select board, doing your annual report?
My annual report is in December. I believe it's December 6th.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, in one of our meetings before then, I don't know if the board wanted to bring together just some feedback that they received throughout this summer. One of my main concerns, I know Matt Fee's talked about it a lot on the select board, but is just the bike safety on this island. I know Matt had numerous employees. I had 2 employees this year that were hit by cars. And from what I'm hearing and talking to some firefighter stuff, this is a record year for bike accidents. Upwards of over, 100 or more people hit by cars and bikes. And so, I think that's becoming a very key topic. I know there's a lot of talk and things. I haven't followed what BPAC's been talking about as far as scooters and things like that, but I know that's an issue. But just in the visitor services scheme of things, I think we're seeing a lot of day trippers. We're seeing a lot of people bring bikes. I've heard rumblings out there that the bike rentals are way down because people are bringing their own bikes from off island. I don't know, Liz, if that's true, but we can talk about that later on. We don't have to get into it now, but it's I just, from visitor services, and I think it's a bigger issue, but I think if we can give that extra feedback to the select board in your annual report of things that we could see that would help improve visitor services and visitor safety, especially, I think that would be definitely key. So
Yeah, Liz.
To that, we could maybe through Highline, when people are bringing bikes, give them something that kind of rules of the road. I've already been thinking about this a little bit. Obviously we're just one of the ways people get to the island, but we are carrying a lot of bikes. We're carrying a lot of the motorized bikes. Unfortunately, that's going to be a wave. I think that's never going to go away now. Everybody, has realized they don't even need a car if they have one of those. So anyway, I would certainly be up for if we, wanted to put something together, or with the powers that be, bring that forward to the boys, and just seeing if that might be something that Highline can help out with.
Possibly on the November agenda, because I have a couple things too. I know in one of the recent newsletters from the town, they're talking about downtown sort of rules and, for businesses in a sense, how to behave, clothes hanging off trees, and, the sandwich boards are multiplying hourly, and, things like that. But my thing is downtown, bike racks. I don't want to remove any benches from Main Street, but I have to tell you, I was sitting on Main Street this summer, and every single light post must have had 4 or 5 bikes, that were locked to the light posts. They were locked to benches, because when you really look at Main Street, there's not an adequate spot for people to store these bikes while they're shopping or doing whatever. So it was, I think that should be added to the list that the select board had in their newsletter for comments. But that was just one thing I noticed. You couldn't help but notice it. So, any other questions or comments for Shanta? All right. I apologize for item number 7 on the agenda. I didn't finish. Dina, it wasn't that I forgot you. I just didn't keep reading and turning the page. So thank you for understanding. But any other comments, any other suggestions? We'll meet again, believe it or not, next month is November, which is hard to believe. So maybe we have that as a workshop meeting, and Chantal and David and some of the people could put on agenda if you don't have a speaker, or we can just do a recap for Nantucket Noel and Thanksgiving and things like that. But we can chat about that later with David too, when he's back. Okay, any other comments? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? It is 8:55, we're right on time. Someone want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Matt, second?
I'll second.
Okay, Niles, thank you. We'll do a roll call. Garrison,
Yep.
Niles,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you all. Thank you, Chantal, for running this. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Have
Yep.
a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Dina.